Many of you know me, but let me just explain that I am the special rapporteur for the situation of human rights in Myanmar, and I have been holding this mandate for 6 years. So I started in 2007, long time ago. At this point, I am still a rapporteur, but I will be finished, I believe, in May, and a new rapporteur will start and will carry on the mandate. Throughout this mandate, by the way, this is a mandate established by the Human Rights Council of the United Nations. This is this is the human rights body of the United Nations, and the mandate, the Myanmar mandate, was established in 1992, so a long time ago. And before me, there were some other rapporteurs. And during my term as a mandate holder, one of my priorities was to try to engage with the authorities. So then I had the possibility to visit the country, to travel to the ground, to collect first-hand information, to listen to the victims living in the country, but also to try to build a dialogue with the authorities, with those who are ruling the country. So, these 6 years with mandates were very interesting because I had the possibility to experience this movement from a military regime who has been ruling the country for 40 years, more than 40 years, and then with this new quasi-civilian government, with after the general elections, and now trying to see how the situation goes. So what I'm trying to say is that I visited Myanmar 9 times, and I traveled all over the country, and I visited many different states, including Kachin, Karen State. Last year I visited Chin State, and of course I visited Rakhine. I visited Rakhine State 5 times. And I remember back in 2009, I think, was the first visit to Rakhine State, trying to address a very specific issue, which was the situation of the Rohingya. And at that time, the main issues were first, the problem of citizenship. And there was a clear stance from the Rohingya on that regard. The government also stands on that. There was a discussion there, which was going nowhere, but actually we could discuss these kind of issues that authorities at the moment and with Rohingya community. And of course, other issues were the lack of freedom of movement, particularly from one township to another township. And there were some other issues were discussed, for example, the problem of registration of newborn children. And I remember that time I visited Mondo, and the UNHCR was working there. There were some other humanitarian agencies working there, but that was the first time that I had the feeling how about the situation of the Rohingya in Rakhine. I remember I requested to meet Mondo Rohingya authority, and it was very difficult. The government wouldn't allow me to meet Rohingya people, Rohingya leaders in Mondo. At that time, the security force in charge was SACA, immigration force, security force, and Nasaka was controlling the whole territory, and they also want to control my mission to Mongol. But finally, I had the chance to meet a number of Rohingya leaders, and when I asked them, "You consider yourself a Rohingya?" they couldn't stop because they were already afraid back in 2009 about calling themselves as Rohingya ethnic community and belonging to Rohingya community. So that was the first mission to the country. From that time, I started to include in my reports my concerns about this population, which were already having, of course, problems with Bangladesh, the border area, and at that time, the situation in Rakhine State, the northern Rakhine State, with the Rohingya community started to have impact in the region, regional impact in Bangladesh, Thailand, etc. So I tried to discuss these issues with the government, and it was very difficult at that time. From that time, I started to focus on the Rohingya community, and I visited, as I say, the area 5 times. The situation from 2009, where I can speak about, because I visited the first time the area at that time, the situation has gradually worsened. Not only gradually, systematically, and of course traumatically, when the violence erupted in 2012. So it seems that right before the general elections in 2010 and after 2000 elections in 2010, there were some steps towards worsening situation in Rakhine State, gradually and systematically. And this is very, very clear for me, because after the violence erupted in 2010, the situation, the issues that we were now discussing were not somehow different, because we were talking about loss of life, destruction of properties, displacement of force, displacement of population, etc., etc. At that time, I also visited Rakhine State. It was a very tense, very, very tense situation, and I did my best to visit the prison in Butidong, where thousands of Rohingya were held, being tortured systematically, but also there were 5 United Nations local workers incarcerated, and also some international non-governmental organizations workers also being arrested by the authorities. And it is in my report. I finally could get to Butidong prison. I was alone there because all my team was left in Sittwe, and it was very, very difficult. But I talked to these people who were in Butidong prison, and my conclusions that there was a pattern of torture against all the Rohingya, including deaths of Rohingya, young Rohingya people in Butidong prison. This was very, very serious, and of course, all judicial guarantees in respect to their arrest, access to legal counsel, etc., was possible, and so this was de facto situation where thousands of 1,000 of Rohingya people were, including women, of course, and not only men, were jailed in this prison in Butidong, far away from Sittwe and from, of course, the capital city of Myanmar. And And this was a clear evidence that the situation now in Rakhine State against Rohingya was not going to improve in any way. And I remember also discussing with the authorities the situation of the IDP, the Rohingya who had to flee their places because their places were being destroyed. And discussions at the beginning were, are these communities going to go back to return to their property, their land? And the government was silent about this, just letting people discuss that. But gradually, say, we started to realize that the policy in this respect was that it was not returning people back to their land at all. Of course, on grounds security reasons. But I mean, those security reasons were not enough to explain why this Rohingya community was not being able to return to their properties. Of course, the international community, I also call for independent, impartial investigations, which, of course, happen in the country because Myanmar is still under a pattern of impunity in respect to crimes committed by authority. This was history of the country during the military government, and this didn't change at all in these 3.5 years of transition. I mean, we need to be very clear on this because the government is quite fast in responding to international community. When the international community asks for investigation, the government reacts quite fast. And immediately they create commissions of investigation. They ask the National Human Rights Commission also to carry on investigations. Well, I have been very clear with the government and with the Human Rights Council in Geneva last March that we could not see any independent and impartial investigation in the country, and this is part of an entrenched pattern of impunity in Myanmar, and something has to be done on the United Nations side. And so I will talk about that to you after some other things that I wanted to say. Now, another step towards worsening the situation systematically and gradually is this element that I wanted to share with you. I visited Myanmar last time in February, and I asked for a meeting with the Minister of Health. Now, the current Minister of Health seems to be a very powerful minister with good connections with the higher authority in the country. So the meeting was quite short, and the meeting, I met him in the past, and sometimes we discuss more general issues, but this time we discussed the situation of Rakhine State. And I was, at that time, a little bit surprised when he started to explain in me that the Minister of Health was ready to take over the health care in Rakhine State in respect to the Rohingya community. So these were statements made by the Ministry of Health before MSF spelled, before the violence and the attacks against humanitarian workers in Situa started. So it was for me a clear indication at the moment. I remember realizing that there was a plan at the government and at the central government level to suddenly put their their authorities, the ministers mostly take care of the health in Rakhine State, including the health care of Rohingya. So this is another element to me that shows that this is a systematic evolution of the situation of the Rohingya, which of course then shows, bring the challenge of how to qualify the situation in Rakhine State, whether there are elements there to start talking about genocide or not. And this is a very important discussion. My friend King just briefed me that early in the morning you have been discussing with some panelists about the possibilities of genocide, of some elements of genocide being present in the situation of Rakhine State. This is something that I believe needs to be discussed. What I had said in the past is that, in the past, last March, I went to the Human Rights Council. I talked to member states of the United Nations, and I said the situation of Rakhine State may crimes against humanity, and the crimes against humanity includes different crimes according to the Rome Statute, including the situation of genocide. Now, it is clear that when I said that the situation has worsened systematically, this means that there are a number of authorities involved in this. Sometimes we have heard that at least from the central government, that this is a problem of what comes only from Rakhine State, and the state authorities who are really not able to face the situation. What I can say after meeting Myanmar 9 times and meeting many people is that it's clear for me that here the central government of Myanmar has a responsibility in making these kind of decisions, like the decision in respect to the Minister of Health suddenly decided to take care of the health situation in Rakhine State, meaning that what happened afterward was even for me thought and planned before. The central government has a very important responsibility. We can talk about the Ministry of Immigration, because we need to talk about this kind of to really start thinking about solutions or thinking about ways of action. The Ministry of Immigration is a very important authority in the country who makes this very specific decision. For example, one and a half years ago, I think, 1.5 years, I went to Naypyidaw, the capital city of Myanmar, and I met authorities, including the Ministry of Immigration, who has the responsibility to deal with the situation in Rakhine State. I asked him, dear Minister, there is a two-child policy in Myanmar at this moment being applied against the Rohingya population. And he responded, there is no two-child policy, but there is a practice. And he wouldn't defend that practice, but he wouldn't say that he was trying to stop that kind of practice. So it is very clear that they are in charge of the situation in Rakhine State. They make the decisions. and the central government decided, for example, to disband the NASACA, the Immigration Security Force. Now, that was welcome. I myself welcome that decision because I have been including in my reports very strong concerns about how the NASACA deal with the Rohingya community. And this decision was made at the central government level. Now, where are those members of NASACA now? Do they belong to the police force in Rakhine State? We don't know. And of course, we didn't see any investigation or action taken against those members of NASACA accused of committing crimes in Rakhine State against the Rohingya community. So the central government here is responsible. It is clear for me. The chief minister of Rakhine State, governor of Rakhine State, is appointed by the president. This is the same chief minister, this is the state authority who remains in power in Rakhine State since the transition started in 2010. And this is the same governor that was responsible of violence, which took place in 2012, etc. And he's charged of situation in Rakhine State. And he responds to the president of Myanmar. Of course, the parliament, we haven't seen a different stance with respect to Rohingya coming from the parliament of Myanmar, which of course, with many members of the international community, including myself, commend the efforts of the new parliament towards new legislation and a very more active participation. Now, in some areas, they are still in debt, and in respect to the kind situation, Parliament has not played a role. The judiciary is not independent in the country. We couldn't see any help from the judiciary in this respect. And then the National Human Rights Commission, which now is a new player in the country. When I discuss issues with the different ministers, they say, well, the National Human Rights Commission has dealt with the issue and there is no any problem. No. So this is also serious. The international community has been supporting the National Human Rights Commission of Myanmar, which is important. They need support. They need the capacity. They need training. They need resources. But it's not independent. There is no political decision in Myanmar so far to convert this Human Rights Commission in an independent body. So we cannot rely on their investigations, and they have been very clear on this. Now, yesterday there was a meeting in New York between there is a group in the past. It used to be called the Groups of Friends of Myanmar, and now it's called a Partnership for Myanmar. So there are a number of countries in New York who meet regularly to discuss the situation of Rakhine State, and the Secretary General sometimes chair this partnership group. And yesterday there was a meeting, and this group invited the government of Myanmar to participate. The president Thein Sein sent someone from his cabinet. And the minister that was sent by President Thein Sein was the Minister of Immigration of Myanmar, the authority who is in charge of bringing solutions to the situation in Rakhine State in respect to the Rohingya. So you see how difficult it is to raise the seriousness of the situation of the Rohingya in Rakhine State. Now, I would like to finish with another issue, but then I will leave the floor open. So I really like some observations and questions, of course. But the question is what to do. What to do? What to do? Well, at the local level, I mean, at the domestic level in Myanmar, as I said, we don't see that the authorities, the executive power, the parliament, the judiciary, some other bodies, but also we don't see from the civil society, from the whole civil society in Myanmar, willingness to bring really a situation which gives the Rohingya community rights that they deserve. There is no possibility at this moment at domestic level. And this is very sad to say, but this is my conclusion after having been in the country many times and after talking to civil society organizations. I met members of the 88 generation group, and their stance in respect to Rohingya quite strong against any rights of the Rohingya. And this was quite shocking for me. And from other stakeholders also we have this kind of statement. So situation at the domestic level very serious. And with the current government, it seems that we will not see any improvement of the situation of the Rohingya in the country. Now, at the regional level, I many times tried to reach ASEAN countries, members of the ASEAN, the regional political party, and was been very difficult to include in their discussions the situation of the Rohingya community. I tried to reach the ACHR, which is the human rights body of ASEAN, many times. And it was even worse to try to reach ACHR members because according to what they said to me, they are not able to raise any country situation at all. So I have strong belief that this regional body has a responsibility in helping Myanmar, bringing solutions to Rohingya through this regional mechanism. And as I say, the situation of Rohingya has a regional impact in Thailand, in Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia. So they had to take a more active role, and we haven't seen this. So this is also a problem. Then at the international level, what to do at the international level? Well, I just told you what is going on in New York at the moment. So it seems that the Security Council, which is based in New York, there is no space at the Security Council level to bring the situation of Rohingya. But of course, we need to keep trying. What I believe is that, and this is what I started to try in my last report last March in Geneva before the Human Rights Council, is that this body, the Human Rights Council in Geneva, could do more and can do more, and they should do more in respect to Rohingya. And I believe there is space at the Human Rights Council level for that. So the challenge is there. We need to think of what kind of actions, alternatives to creative measures to bring to member states of the Human Rights Council. Last March, I tried to discuss what happened in Quintana, which is an area which is a Rohingya township, which will suffer, serious human rights abuses, including the rape of women. And I said what I just said. There is no possibility in Myanmar to carry on an investigation which is impartial, independent, which has the capacity to really disclose the truth of what happened. Now, and I tried to raise the issue with the members of the Human Rights Council and say, you should do something. Whether this is through a commission of inquiry or through some other mechanism, well, we need to start working on that. Well, we need from the Human Rights Council a stronger a stronger stance. Now, to finish with, let me also tell you that why I was bringing this very important question to the Human Rights Council in Geneva last March. Also, the members of the Human Rights Council were discussing the possibility to finish this mandate that I am still holding, to finish the mandate. Myanmar wants to finish the mandate. And there are some members of the ASEAN countries who are supporting Myanmar in this respect. Fortunately, I believe this will not happen, and a new rapporteur will be appointed. But these are the dynamics of the Human Rights Council. Still, I believe that there is space in the Human Rights Council to do more in respect to the Rohingya community. All right, so I think I covered all the time, and I will leave it there. And I will be happy to listen from you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We have, I guess, until 2:30. We're going to push the program a little bit to, for us to benefit from Mr. Quintana's presence. Firstly, I think that many people in this room welcome your call to start.
Sorry. Don't look at me because I cannot hear you. Look to the stripes and then I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Many people in this room.
Move to your right.
To your computer. It's not a microphone.
Thank you.
There. Yeah, it's better. Now I can hear you.
Let me repeat. Many people in this room, I am sure, welcome your endorsement of the conference like this that is designed to start a new discussion using the Genocide Convention and its framework. But you mentioned that you have been insistent on calling independent, impartial, international investigation of the Rohingya situation. You also mentioned that the Burmese government is not to be trusted with its own investigation. But the call has been made since 1978. I have in my hand a compilation of documents from 1978 that included different calls for investigation into the first wave of systematic violence against Rohingya. It is taking over 30 years. And what do you think is going to break this paralysis internationally?
You want me to respond now?
Yes, please. Or
Okay.
maybe you take a few more questions and then we'll wrap it up. Yeah? Can you take a few more questions from the audience?
Yes.
Okay. Whoever, yes. Come and speak here. You have to talk to the camera. You mention your name. Yeah.
I'm Jamal Ahmad, General Secretary of Burmese Rohingya Organization UK. First of all, thank you for joining to this event. We believe that you visited to Burma and you were in Burma under the care of Burmese government. We have also seen you have been attacked by mob. And what does it mean to you? Do you think that Burmese government is trying to disturb your investigation and frequent visit, which will stop you to produce accurate report? Thank you.
More questions? Please come up and speak to the camera. And then he's going to collect a few more questions and then he'll address, and then we'll close the session. Yes, please. Please state your name.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to say a big thank you to you for your tremendous work of the 6 years period, and we love you as well. So, but my question is, according to you, you mentioned that neither the Burmese government nor any civil society wants to give any kind of hope to the Rohingya people in Burma. But our only hope is towards the United Nations. So in 6 years of time, you have released a lot of reports. My question is actually similar to the Dr. Zani. But is there any concrete action has been taken by the United Nations? If not, why do you think, why it is not? And I would like your suggestion on that. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think this will be the last question, and then we have another session.
Hi, my question comes sort of in contrast to Dr. Zarni's, and that is, do you feel that there's any negative implications to using a genocide framework, any backlash implications to the Rohingya question? Sure, sorry, to the mic I asked if there's any concern of backlash when using a genocide context for addressing the Rohingya question.
Can you state your name, please?
Sorry, Jeffrey Stein.
Mr. Quintana, that's all questions we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me first tell you that what is being discussed at the international level in respect to the situation in Myanmar as a whole is it's the question of religious violence. Now, there has been this discussion about the Muslims, Buddhists against Muslims, and what happened not only in Rakhine State, but also in some other parts of the country. And this is a problem. As you just said, I think 2 years ago, I faced kind of mobs who punched and kicked my car in Meiktila, which is not in Rakhine State. Now, the situation in respect to the Muslims in Myanmar as a whole is still very difficult, it's very serious, but I will distinguish the general situation in the country in respect to religious violence from the situation in Rakhine State. Of course, the religious element in respect to Rohingya is being used, but I want to distinguish from the whole situation in the country, because here there is also an element which has to do with ethnicity and with some other elements. And this, we need to be very clear on that, because while the situation around the country has calmed down in respect to religious violence, the situation in Rakhine State remains the same and has worsened, as I just said. So there is not only a religious element in Rakhine State, clearly, but there are more other elements that we need to clearly distinguish. And this has been something that I've been discussing with the international community, with members of the United Nations. You need to distinguish. This is different. Some other decisions of measures need to be taken in respect to the Rohingya community. And when I said that the whole country seems to be against the Rohingya, I am also talking about those who are inciting hatred. Like this monk Widatu, who recently has been in Rakhine State, inciting violence directly in Rakhine State, against the Rohingya community. And the government has not done enough to stop this hatred, this incitement. And the president of Myanmar has been ambivalent in his stance in this respect. He came out with some statements calling for a peaceful, mutual coexistence and understanding. But at the same time, we see that this, for example, this monk with a tattoo is to ride all along the Rakhine State, holding these conferences with the hundreds of people. And I am a human rights rapporteur, but I believe that in some cases, particularly in respect to hate speech, this should be stopped. And we haven't seen any measure from the government in this respect. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that the Buddhist community in Myanmar is violent. And I never said that. And I don't say that basically because I met some other monks who accept Rohingya people, who accept Muslims, who even gave shelter to Muslims who were fleeing violence. So I wouldn't say that Buddhist communities are violent. This is something else going on. In addition to this hate speech, we also see in some cases that these mobs are organized, basically. And when I visited, for example, Lazio, who suffered religious violence against a Muslim community, the authorities from Lazio, who are non-Muslims, who are Buddhists, told me that they just saw people coming from out of the township inciting violence. So there is clear evidence that these mobs are being organized. Who are organizing these mobs? We don't know. I don't have evidence. We can look into the past, maybe, and we can see that in the past the USDA, which is now the USDP, the ruling party in the country, but at that time it was the USDA. Had organized militias. It is not strange that now we see some of these mobs being organized. Now, of course, when last time in February I visited Sittue, and I spent one day in Sittue, and I went to the jail, I went to Aumingalar quarter, and I went to an IDP camp. But during the whole day I was followed by mobs and trying to stop me in any place that I wanted to go. Of course, this did not compromise my possibilities to really report accurately to the Human Rights Council. But this, I remember I asked the chief of police in Sittue, I said, these people have been following me the whole day. Why is this happening? And I said, are you being authorizing these demonstrations? And they say, yes, we are authorizing because these people deserve to protest, etc. Which I think is reasonable, but at some point also shows that the government is not willing and doesn't want to really take the necessary actions to stop this. They need to stop these kind of demonstrations and incitement. And the international community has not been clear enough on about what happened in the country. Not only Rakhine State has been the call for independent, impartial investigations has been, there for years, coming from the international community, from the NGO community, and in some times has been very difficult for the international community really to push for these kind of investigations. We need to keep trying. At some point we might find space to really collect a number of votes at the Human Rights Council to create a very an independent mechanism to investigate this kind of incidents. This is a challenge. I'm not saying we can do it right away. There is a challenge, but this needs to be discussed at the Human Rights Council. That we need to put more pressure on the Human Rights Council in this respect. And we can see examples, of course, they are different, you know, but if we see to the North Korean situation, there has been a rapporteur for North Korea also for years, and but the last special rapporteur proposed to create a commission of inquiry, and this took time, but finally the Human Rights Council created the commission of inquiry, and this was a very important development in the situation in North Korea. So there might be some space at the Human Rights Council for that. Now, to discuss about the genocide, whether the discussion about genocide has a negative impact. Well, that's a very important question that you should ask yourself, because when you go to discuss, I mean, you can really prepare reports and very substantive reports about the situation in Rakhine State with the Rohingyas, and you can reach a conclusion that there are some elements of genocide, and that's important. Now then, when you try to raise these issues with those who can make decisions, who are first the government in the country, but then the international community, you will need to really balance to what extent the international community will react negatively. But I'm just thinking strategically. I'm not saying that we don't need to speak about genocide if we really have grounds and elements, and we believe that there are elements of genocide in Rakhine State in respect to the Rohingyas. I think we are reaching the point where there is the situation is gradually and systematically worsening in Rakhine State, not against the Rohingya, and we see clear elements which might for this assumption that genocide or some principle of genocide or some elements of genocide are present in Rakhine State. For me, it has been very difficult to raise this issue with the different stakeholders. So I think this is the time, though, to keep talking about that. I had talked about crimes against humanity, which is equally serious, and the problem is, what is the reaction of the international community? We have seen lately some statements from members of the international community now situated in the country with new embassies calling for independent investigation strongly. We have seen the US ambassador saying that. I remember, I believe the UK also. Now, how do you translate those statements into clear action? Well, you should put this question to them. You are calling for that. We are not seeing any independent, impartial investigation. What next? This is the kind of discussion that we need to have with those who can make decisions about the situation in Rakhine State. The United Nations has been.
I apologize for interrupting.
I cannot hear you.
I apologize for interrupting you, but this is all the time
Okay.
we have, and thank you so much. And let's give him a round of applause, please.